and welcome back to another exciting prediction episode. In this one, we're going to be predicting the Big 12 Conference, and it's one of the most exciting because the Big 12, top to bottom, one of the most competitive conferences in all of college football. As usual, we're doing it on Playoff Predictors, which is this absolutely beautiful website that lets you pick every game and it reflects on the standings. So we see our Big 12 standings this year. We've got Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, the new additions, and we're just going to get right to making picks. If it's like an FCS game like Southern Utah against Utah, not going to talk about my reasoning too much because in a lot of these cases, heavily predicted to be one team, but we'll definitely talk about some of the closer matchups like Wyoming at Arizona State. It's a game I'll likely be at. It's actually pretty intriguing. I do think year one Wyoming, Arizona State healthy week one, gotta be him. Jay Sovil, the new coach there, wishing him the best. He commented on one of my tier lists the other day. Not actually positive, which was surprising. But some of these other ones, there's some interesting games here. UNLV at Houston. I'm tempted to maybe take UNLV. It's year one Willie Fritz, Barry Odom, and his UNLV squad on the road. I'm actually going to take UNLV in that one. I think they could pull a bit of an upset there. I do think I'm not ballsy enough to pick either North Dakota State or South Dakota State over Colorado, Oklahoma State, although I do feel like one of those might happen. Penn State at West Virginia. Give me Penn State. I think they're just going to be too good. I know West Virginia's amped for that game, though. And then you got TCU at Stanford. Kind of a tough trip, but I do like TCU. So that does it for week one. We've got some really intriguing week two games in this conference. We'll just pick through some of these FCS ones. This is a tough game against Albany, which I learned I've been mispronouncing. Apparently, it's Albany, not Albany, which is, I believe, what I said when I talked to Neil Brown. Mississippi State at Arizona State. As much as I would like to believe the Sun Devils get this win at home, I just think Mississippi State's going to be a lot more talented. I think that'll shine through. I also think Pullman's a tough place to play. So give me the other conferences in both those games. Houston at Oklahoma, that's going to be a tough start. I'm high on Nebraska, and I think I'm high in Kansas. So give me them in those games. Iowa State at Iowa, it's a tough one. I do think I'll actually take Iowa in this game. This one's technically non-conference, the Baylor-Utah games, but give me Utah. We've got Pitt at Cincinnati. That's another tricky one, but give me Cincinnati. Hopefully I stay consistent or relatively consistent with my other videos. I already did the ACC one. Hopefully I picked Cincinnati and not Pitt in that one. Kansas State at Tulane is also tricky, but I do think Kansas State will get that one. I haven't given the Big 12 much of the benefit of the doubt, and then I picked Oklahoma State over Arkansas as well. We've got BYU at SMU, which I believe I did pick SMU in my other video. I apologize if I didn't, and that was inconsistent. And then I believe I picked West Virginia over Pitt as well. Texas Tech over North Texas. That could be tricky. Cincinnati at Miami. I've gone back and forth, but I've decided I think Cincinnati still gets that win at Miami of Ohio. They just have a lot of really talented players this year that I think are underrated. Arizona at Kansas State, which is another one that I believe isn't technically a conference game. I think Kansas can get the best of them there. ASU at Texas State is also super tricky. I feel like you've got to give me ASU, barely though. That one's going to be, actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to pick Texas State in that game. I think Oklahoma State gets a nice road win. Same with Utah. Baylor, Colorado gets a victory here. UCF at TCU is an interesting one. I think BYU can get that win at Houston. Man, tricky game, but I do think TCU early game at home can get the win over Central Florida. We continue on here. Kansas State at BYU is another pretty interesting one. I think the Wildcats can get that win. Baylor at Colorado. Give me Colorado in an early season game. Utah at Oklahoma State. That's pretty pivotal. I actually like Utah. I think Oklahoma State's got some concerns. Maybe a few turnovers in that game from a very turnover-prone quarterback in Alan Bowman. TCU at SMU. Rivalry game. I do like TCU to get that win. I'm pretty sure I picked the Horned Frogs when I was picking through the ACC. Texas Tech is just too good at home. Cincinnati, surprisingly, I have them at 4-0 right now, which I'm a little sussed out by, but I do think they'll win all those games I picked them in. Kansas at West Virginia is another pretty interesting one. Feels like, give me West Virginia. Give me West Virginia. The home environments in the Big 12, very intimidating. I think Utah gets the best of Arizona. And Arizona, their issue this year is that they lost a lot of talent from that defensive front as we hand Colorado their second loss. And that's going to be something that Utah can expose Cincinnati with their first loss at Texas Tech. We got a TCU at Kansas game. I'm going to lean the home team. I think Kansas State exacts their revenge versus the Cowboys, meaning Oklahoma State starts out 0-2 in conference. So, sure, the comments will be interesting. BYU at Baylor. Another pretty intriguing one here. Give me Baylor. I do think they'll fix some things about their offense. BYU, I know I haven't been too flattering about. I do think they'll actually be a little improved as well. UCF at Florida is tricky. Give me Florida. Texas Tech at Arizona. Red Raiders struggle on the road. That's one thing we know about them, under Joey McGuire especially. West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Give me a lot of these home teams here, but I do think Kansas can go on the road and get the best of the Sun Devils. And I do see Houston falling to TCU as well. So we've got TCU off to a pretty good start here. Utah at Arizona State. Give me Utah. I thought about it. Not ballsy enough to take him there. I do think BYU's got a great home field advantage. I think they could get an upset like one over Arizona, but I realize I've handed Arizona a few losses already. I don't know if I can go that far. That might be a little much. But Kansas State at Colorado. Give me Kansas State. Give me UCF at home. Give me West Virginia at home. All right, here we go. UCF at Iowa State. Iowa State, I think, will defend their home field advantage. This is one of those ones. Oklahoma State is dreadful on the road, and they're playing at BYU. We saw it last year. BYU almost beat them in Stillwater, had a huge lead, and blew it. So I'm very comfortable making that pick. I think Cincinnati can get a home victory versus ASU there. We got Utah beating TCU, and I think West Virginia could pull a little bit of a shocker there. So it's just so tough. There's so many coin flip games that we're going through. I mean, like BYU at UCF, West Virginia at Arizona. What do you even do? I'm going to take the Cats. Texas Tech at TCU, another tricky one. I think I'll take TCU in that case at home. Kansas at Kansas State. I mean, my goodness, what are you supposed to do with some of these games? I think Colorado could get the best of Cincinnati. So we've got a race here. I mean, ASU and Houston, it seems, are the teams I got at the bottom. I do think Houston will be pretty dreadful overall this next season. Arizona State, though, I don't know if they'll be that bad, but I just haven't been feeling them for some reason on this one. Arizona at Central Florida. I think that's one where the cannibalization starts with Central Florida getting that win. I can see Iowa State getting that home victory. TCU at Baylor. I could see Baylor getting another win. I mean, that's a fierce rivalry game. The Holy War is going to be awesome, but give me the Utes, and they're still undefeated, notably, as you can see over here. Texas Tech, I think, gets a victory here. West Virginia at Cincinnati. Give me West Virginia. I've picked Cincinnati to win quite a few games here. I know that I've had them pretty low in terms of like tiers and stuff. I think Oklahoma State maybe ending some of their road woes with a victory right there. This conference title race is going to get pretty insane as we go down the stretch here. Central Florida at Arizona State. Maybe the Sun Devils are able to beat a team that's not used to the desert heat. Iowa State at Kansas, I'm having trouble with. But give me Kansas. Give me the Jayhawks. And then Jayhawks lose at BYU. Iowa State beats Cincinnati. Utah doesn't have any issues there. Houston, I just can't find a way for them to get a win here. I apologize to their fan base. So we're in an interesting spot here. It looks like Kansas State and Utah on kind of a collision course here. Give me Kansas State over Cincinnati. Give me ASU at home over BYU, which I think takes BYU out of bowl eligibility. So a little bit of more of a cannibalization there. I think Kansas gets a victory. Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. Give me the Pokes. Arizona at TCU is another just absolutely tricky one. I think Arizona could get that win at TCU. Baylor at Houston. Maybe that's where Houston finds a way to win. Poor Baylor misses a bowl game as a result. Utah at home versus Iowa State. There we go. I picked Utah. Poor Iowa State. UCF at West Virginia. Oh, it's just so tricky. I really like what UCF did late in the spring portal window. I think Iowa State can get the best of Kansas State again. We've got an Oklahoma State at Colorado game. I think Oklahoma State could get it, but what if? What if Colorado maybe got the best of them there? Colorado, I have it 4-8. Yeah, maybe. Let's give them a crazy, insane upset over Oklahoma State. Utah at Central Florida. Maybe that they end the season with a loss. I know that's a little out of pocket. I'm sorry, guys. Kansas Give me the win there. We got Houston at BYU. I think BYU can get a win to get to 5-7. West Virginia at Texas Tech. Got to be Texas Tech. ASU at Arizona. And then last but not least, we have TCU at Cincinnati, where I think, give it to Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati goes bowling. So there it is, the final standings. We've got Houston, Baylor, Arizona State, Colorado, BYU, all missing bowl games, but snagging a few conference wins here and there. TCU, Cincinnati just making it. West Virginia, Texas Tech right there. Oklahoma State, Central Florida, Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona, just in an absolute log jam in the middle of that conference. And then you've got Kansas State and Utah. I do think Kansas State and Utah are the two best teams in this conference. I did predict Iowa State will make the conference title game because I feel like you got to kind of call a shot. So let's see maybe where the difference was. I assume the difference was maybe me with that West Virginia game. And look, you flip that one, and they've got the win over Kansas State. So that actually would put them in the Big 12 title game if they flipped that one result. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the picks. I think I'm still going to take Utah in the conference title game. But let me know down in the comments who you think is winning the Big 12 and what you thought of this and what conference you want me to do next.